Hello, it's day 91 of the Liberator Project. Now, first things first, I'd like to hope that Dawn is feeling better today, and I hope another name check cheers you up a bit. I'd also like to thank Scooterman, Happy Man, Neil, and the Mighty Auger for their well wishes for my scan today. I'll get onto that in a bit. Now, you can see I look pretty dreadful today, and it's allergy time. This happens because the NHS only gives me injections every fortnight and they only last once a week. So every few weeks I might have, a bad allergy reaction. Now this is swollen, it's painful, but this is so much better. About 4 o'clock this morning, this was bright scarlet. My eyes were white, like I was wearing a mask. It was dreadful. So I'm feeling a lot better now because the injection's kicking in, and in the next few hours, the next couple of days, I'll be back to normal. But today I've been feeling absolutely dreadful, and I was supposed to go for a drink with our Peachykins at lunchtime, or a coffee, but I felt very rough, so we're going to do that next week instead. Today I went for a scan in the hospital. Now this was an ultrasound scan because I have a cyst, and I'm not going to share that many details, but let's go through the process in case you've never had one. This is in my lower abdomen. I've had this for a few years. When it was discovered, it was the size of a small pea. Now, a tennis ball's exaggerating, but it's the size of a plum, and it's quite a horrible procedure. I'll tell you, because not everyone has this in their lives. What I had to do was sort of lay in a bed in just a t-shirt while my, how can I put this delicately? My lower abdomen and my balls were basically covered in KY jelly. And then an ultrasound scanning head, which is about 7 or 8 centimetres by about, say 2 centimetres, is pushed quite hard against your skin and run all over the area to get an internal scan. And it's it is really unpleasant. I mean, it's quite hard, and they do quite a lot of pressure, especially over my bladder, which is very uncomfortable. But it was quite interesting. You can see all the images on the screen, and I'm sure that I can get a copy of them. Actually, I think the NHS are entitled, you're entitled to get a copy of them from the NHS if you so want. But I didn't know what to do for my Christmas cards this year. Anyway, so I got scanned. They did measurements, comparisons. Yes, my cyst has grown another 5 millimeters, but I don't know what the point is because it's been growing for years and still nothing's happening about it. So I suppose they can just confirm it's still benign. But anyway, this is something that annoys the hell out of me about the NHS. They penny pinch and it costs them money. Now, these things never vanish, right? I checked that with the consultant. They only ever grow. So if you found one, it makes sense financially and from a health perspective to remove them immediately. And when it's the size of a pea, it would have been 2 or 3 stitches. Outpatients, been a very, very easy thing to do, and I wouldn't have had to bother them again. But the fact they haven't removed it, and I've gone back every year and had appointments and gone to hospital and had scans, it's just such a phenomenal waste of resources. And now at some point there's going to have to be a threshold when they operate. It's going to be really expensive and difficult, so all those resources have been wasted on this trivial problem that could have been solved a few years ago for very little expense. But that is the really annoying thing about the NHS. It's not that it's badly funding, it's the way they allocate resources. So we're taught in this country the NHS is fantastic, it's a world leader. It's not. It's only when you live in another country like Estonia you realise how dreadful the healthcare is in this country. In Estonia you could go and see a dentist, you could book an appointment very easily, you go and see a doctor, and you pay. But because everyone pays, the rates are remarkably cheap. Like, I could get my dentist work done. I was quoted for maybe £5,000 in this country. In Estonia, it was, I think it was about €500 to get everything done. So you're talking about a tenth the price. and the service is very good, and you can pick where you go, and you can see specialists. You haven't got to wait. It's because the whole population uses that health scheme. It's not ridiculously expensive in this country, because private medicine's a luxury. It's really expensive, and you can't. Normal people can't afford to do it. So it does annoy me immensely. Another example are the injections I take. Now, they only last a week. I'm only allowed to have them every fortnight, so I get this for a couple of days. Some fortnights I get away with it, but typically I get this sort of every month, and my immune system flares up. Now, if they gave me the injections every week, what would happen is my immune system would never flare up. It would calm down, my white cell count would drop, my G levels would drop, and after 6 months, then I could go on to every fortnight and just wean myself off it. But the fact is, because I don't have the right number of injections, every month I have a major flare up, and that my immune level rockets again, so it never gets a chance to calm down and to recover. So if they just took a more long-term view and did it for 6 months, then we could get over this. But no, by penny pinching, they end up spending more money and causing more suffering. I think it's really quite evil. Now, a friend's wife has access to the cost of drugs. She works for a drug company, and the cost of drugs to the NHS is absolutely pence. I was quite shocked to find, like, say, an inhaler is about 70 pence. The administration and the paperwork and bureaucracy to actually get you an inhaler is 100 times the cost of actually the device. So when you go to the doctors and they only give you one at a time, it's a ridiculous false economy, because they might as well give you 4 and get all the bureaucracy and paperwork done in one prescription, and then the cost of the drugs themselves are so cheap. Now, I'm not making this up. I've got the actual price list from the company, the value they charge the NHS, and it's it's shocking how cheap most of the drugs you're given are. The other trouble is that the NHS works on the cheapest drugs. Now, a lot of them have got side effects, so they give you other drugs to counter the side effects. Then they give you other drugs to counter the side effects. So when I was really ill, I ended up taking 16 tablets a day, most of which were trying to counteract the side effect of the steroids. And then, there were drugs that causes stomach ulcers, there were drugs that cause blood thickening or high blood pressure, and it just goes on. You end up taking this mushy cocktail of third-rate drugs. Whereas, if you go to, my friend always goes to Germany for his treatment, immediately they stop you taking that cocktail and they put you on a very specific drug to deal with your one problem. It just seems a much better system all around, but we're never told how bad the NHS is, and most people don't live in other countries, never experience how good their medicine is compared to Britain. But I could go on. I mean, another thing I hate about the NHS is their priorities. Now, I was on steroids for 12 years, and I was on some really quite toxic drugs, and they've completely screwed up my body. And yet, for example, my moobs, they're entirely due to the fact I was on steroids for a long term, and the NHS won't remove those. They say that's purely cosmetic, despite the fact that was a side effect of taking steroids for so long. However, if you're a teenager and you want to have a sex change, they will immediately start doing things like giving you breasts, taking breasts off, giving you hormone therapy. All those things, which are ultimately cosmetic, will be done straight away on the NHS. Whereas someone like myself that could do with a bit of cosmetic surgery, let's be fair, to counteract the side effects of the drugs, no, we're just absolutely dismissed. That's not possible. It's not going to happen. So I'm going to have to pay for that privately if I want it. So that's a problem for later on in my life. At the moment, I'm more worried about the situation. I'm more worried about getting on the boat and getting away. So that's that's priorities. There's only so much time, and you've got to focus on what's important to you. But the NHS drives me nuts. I mean, a lot of old people go into hospital, they get infections, they never come out, and a lot of old people need hip operations or surgery. They're never going to get it. They're going to be put on a waiting list. It's going to be deferred and deferred and deferred. They are never going to get that new hip. They're just written off by the NHS. And, you know, a 13-year-old that wants to become a woman, priority case, gets it dealt with. Whereas, you know, old age pension needs a hip. You can wait until you die. It's never going to happen. So, anyway, the NHS. In hospital today, it was like a ghost town. There was absolutely no one around. Deserted everywhere. I've never ever seen it like that. Usually it's packed, you have to wait, and walked in, just no waiting, no one around, deserted. And say my friend went, this is in Watford General, my friend went down to Watford General for emergency a few days ago because he had a bad migraine. Cases in there, dozens and dozens of attempted suicides. So the ridiculous thing is, if you commit suicide over the current situation, you are flagged as a current situation death, even though the despair and the lockdown caused your death. But so when people talk to me about the death figures, you know, if you took out domestic violence, poverty, suicides, missed hospital scans, missed cancer treatments, you know, I think we all know where the figures are on that. But anyway, I'm whinging on. I actually did something on the project today because I was feeling dreadful. I didn't feel like sorting things out, and it was raining, and by the time I finished in hospital, you know, I felt bad. It was raining and it was too late to go down to the car. Tomorrow it looks like it's going to rain in Chelmsford, so I won't go back to the car, but hopefully Friday is nice and I can get the kit car completely finished and put that up for sale at the for Monday. I'll start Monday evening is when I list everything, and then I've got a weekend of listing things and doing stuff. But sadly today, it felt dreadful, and you know, it's when you're feeling rough, you really don't feel like diving in and selling your Gary Newman collection. I mean, I'm sure you're the same. Right, something I did a bit of work on making an amphibious Capri, and I spoke to my friend Stuart, who came up with some ideas about how to actually raise the suspension and sort out the drive shaft. It's it's all possible. So if there's any way I can do it, I'll do it, and I'll show you every step of the project, and we'll see how that goes. But anyway, one step at a time. Today's been a bit of a bad step, but I needed to take some time for myself to deal with my own health issues, and probably not very exciting tomorrow, but join me Friday and we're back on the kit car. Okay, thanks a lot. Good night.